And how long you want to go, that's up to you. We could limit it at an hour, but I definitely don't want to go longer than 2 hours because then people lose interest.
Lose interest. And we'll aim for an hour.
Okay, we'll aim for an hour. If we go over or less for a few minutes, that's fine, but we'll aim for an hour. Okay, here you are. And how long you want to go, that's up to you. Okay, so we're starting. We're live. We're live, everybody. Then people lose interest.
Lose interest. And we'll aim for
Okay.
an hour.
Okay, we'll aim for an hour. If we go over or less for a few minutes, that's fine, but we'll aim for an hour. All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Paul Neeson, and this is Dr. Fred Bisci.
We're starting. We're live.
And let's see, welcome to the live program here. This is Dr. Fred Bisci. Dr. Bisci's been eating a raw vegan diet now for let's see here.
Way over half a century, Paul. I don't keep time, you know.
Yeah. Let's start recording this when we get started. All right, everybody. So yeah, it's he's been doing this a long time, and he was so generous to come on here with his time and answer some questions from everybody. I've had him on many great interviews, and he talks about a lot of information. We just uploaded one last week, so he wanted to literally speak to everyone here so he can actually answer your questions. And we're gonna have a lot of people on here today, so he's gonna go through them. Some of them we'll get more into detail. But if there's other specific topics that we do miss today, please, everybody, make sure you type them in the comments below, and we could do maybe an interview with them in the future. So,
Paul, can I interrupt you a moment?
Go ahead.
If there's a question, because sometimes you can't answer certain questions with a short, simple answer. So if I start to elaborate too much, I appreciate if you just bring me, tell me to. We have a lot more questions, and maybe we could get to the rest of it the next time.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. So type your questions below, and let me find the screen here, and we'll get started with the questions here. And how long you want to go, that's up to you. Okay. We could limit it at an hour, but I definitely don't want to go longer than 2 hours because then people lose. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. So, Dr. Bisci, the first question is tonight or today is, what is the best way for someone to recover from alcohol-induced anemia who already eats a mostly raw vegan diet?
Okay, the best thing to do is stop drinking alcohol completely. That's the first thing to take into consideration. And then if the person's on a mostly raw vegan diet or raw vegan diet?
It just says on a mostly raw vegan diet.
Okay, to make sure that you're eating a variety of different greens. And you could also, blackstrap molasses is very, very rich in iron. You could use that as a supplement. You could use that as adding it into your diet. Eat a variety of different foods. What type of anemia they're not talking about B12 anemia. They're talking about iron anemia, right?
They said alcoholic-induced anemia.
Well, I mean, if they're following a good diet, a high raw vegan diet with a variety of different foods, once they stop drinking and give it enough time, the body will improve its chemistry, and they'll be getting enough from their diet. The key is people are always looking for magic bullets, some magic supplements. There are supplements out there you could take. A lot of iron supplements constipate people, but blackstrap molasses is excellent. A variety of different greens is excellent. Eat some nuts and seeds that are rich in iron, but alcohol is definitely not good for anybody. A moderate amount of alcohol is a problem. If a person has a problem with alcohol addiction, they got to stop it completely. If you stop it completely and follow the right type of diet, eventually you'll have no cravings for alcohol, and your chemistry, your health chemistry, will establish a healthy level of iron.
Okay. All right. Yes, they did confirm it was an iron issue. So, all right. Thank you for that question. Next question is Sherry's asking, can Fred talk about water both for drinking and for bathing? I remember he used to have a water filter that would purify uh
Yeah, water.
it and alkaline drinking for and acidic for bathing. So can you talk about that?
So the person has bad skin.
No, they just said, can you talk about water?
Okay, so water is critically important. It's the second most important thing in your life after oxygen. So water is a solvent and a transport medium. You want to make sure you're drinking enough water. A lot of people have a misapprehension because they're eating a diet that's high raw that they don't have to drink any water. That's a mistake. You're getting water from your fruits and vegetables, but you still have to drink water. Me, myself, who I eat a 100% raw food diet. I still drink water. If I don't drink water, I don't feel as good as I should, especially that I've had some severe injuries in my life. And if I don't drink enough water, I feel them a little bit. They're not painful. So a rough rule of thumb is to drink half your body weight in ounces. Say a person weighs 120 pounds, they can drink 60 ounces of water, but say they're drinking two 16-ounce juices a day, then they can drink 40 ounces of water just to stabilize it, and they'll be getting enough water. Water is important for your skin. It's important for hair. It's important for everything. Energy. Don't drink water about an hour before you go to bed because it might cause you to get up and urinate.
Yes, good point. Good point. Okay. Another question is, what's your opinion on eating every other day?
Well, see, that's a tricky question. If you're on a diet that's 100% raw, if you're eating every other day, it might be counterindicated because when you're eating 100% raw diet and you're not overeating, you're not eating late at night, you're not snacking, you really don't even have to do much fasting because you're not overloading your body in any way. So you have to extend the intermittent fasting. If you're on a 100% raw food diet and you eat one meal every other day, you might not, over a long period of time, over a period of lifetime, you might not be getting enough calories and getting in all the nutrients that you need. So I don't see any reason to do that unless you're on a diet that's not that good and you're overeating and you need more time for the body to clear up the endogenous material that you got from overeating. Then overeating it, eating every other day could be okay, but I don't recommend that. I recommend people get to a good diet and don't get distracted by all these uh, mythical concepts that are in social media now. The whole problem now, social media is confusing and distracting so many people for the simple truth. How to be a healthy person and live a long time, to live beyond 100, is basically very, very simple. You don't have to be confused by abstract science. People start to talk about science, and a lot of it is abstract science. It's not the real science that was you know, by designed into the human body by, the creative intelligence, which is God.
Okay. Uh, somebody's asking, does agave nectar feed tumors, in your opinion?
Well, that's another tricky question. If a person's eating a real clean diet, there's nothing wrong with it. A little bit of agave is not going to feed a tumor. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. The whole key behind sugar feeding a tumor is you have to be spiking your blood sugar, and a lot of people are doing that. That's why I don't recommend eating too much of anything, because sugar in your blood, and the amount of protein in your lifestyle, especially animal protein, stimulates the growth by increasing by the sugar feeding the cancer, and the too much excessive protein, especially animal protein, spike in insulin-like growth hormones, one, which actually promotes the growth of any kind of a cell, including a cancer cell. Any kind of a diet that builds exaggerated muscle in a healthy person is the same type of a diet that's going to cancer cells to proliferate. So a lot of people recommending diets where the ultimate idea of the diet is to increase your muscle mass, and that's not a good type of a diet for a person that has cancer. Now, there's a lot of misconception out there that if you're on a raw food diet as you age, you're not going to maintain enough muscle where you're going to get weak and feeble. That's not true if you do it correctly. I'll be 96 years old, in 1 month, and as of yet, I'm not weak and feeble, and got all my cognitive function, in spite of what some scientists say supposedly that I believe to be abstract science, and I just wouldn't do. I'm not going to change anything I'm doing after been doing this for 60 or so years.
Great, great. Another question is, does Dr. Bisci recommend colonics?
Yes, I do. On colonics, there's a lot. I wouldn't get a colonic when you're on a water fast, but if you're on a juice fast, you can get a colonic. If you feel, if somebody that's knowledgeable tells you that you need a colonic, you've been overeating, you're overweight, you have issues, going to a good colon hydrotherapist is a good idea. I just recently had somebody that had been on a raw food diet and had kind of strayed off and wasn't feeling well. I suggested that they go for a colonic. They went for one colonic. I suggest they go for a series of 3 to 5 colonics if you have a good colon hydrotherapist. And after one colonic, the person felt remarkably better. Yes, colonics under the right circumstances and, done correctly by a good colon hydrotherapist, and realizing the fact that, once you go on a colonic, you're changing your susceptibility to the food that you're eating. In other words, if you go for colonics so you can indulge yourself in the wrong diet, and there are people that do that. It's like being a bulimic from the other end of your body. There's people that do that. I don't recommend things like that.
Okay. Somebody is asking, what is the best purifier for water?
Um, Distilled water. I mean, distilled water is inert. It has absorbent qualities that a lot of people recommend distilled water. If you're going to drink distilled water, I would add something to it so it doesn't, have too much of a leaching effect on you over a period of lifetime. Don't forget, everything I'm talking about is not about for 5 or 10 years, because people can get away with just about anything for 5 or 10 years. I'm talking so you could live a long life, that we have the ability now to live way beyond 100. I don't want to say anything preposterous, but we can live beyond 100. So the water is, I drank distilled water for a long time, and I start to see it could be a problem. You know what I mean? So what I do, I have a water machine that purifies, or reverse osmosis is good. I have a water machine that purifies the water. It's an alkaline water machine that produces hydrogen, and the water is clean. And I found it works very, very well. I had this machine for years, and I'm very satisfied with it. Now, the prices of those machines vary. They can get astronomically high. You can get one that's cheaper. Then don't forget the water when you take a shower, the water that you're showering in is hydrocyanic. You could absorb, a lot of the municipal waters are loaded with chemicals. So you could be absorbing some of that water through the skin. It's hydrocyanic. So pure water, clean water is very, very important. But you don't have to be fanatical about that. The key that gets me is everybody thinks that their way is the only way. I don't believe that. I'm not dogmatic. People could eat different types of a diet so long as it has no processed food. They're not eating late at night. They're not snacking in between meals. They're not overdoing the animal protein. If you're leaving out enough and you're not overeating, you not only won't get sick, but you're going to live a long life. You have a much better chance of not getting sick.
Wonderful. Okay. Jeanette's asking about mold. She says, does he recommend anything specifically to help deal with mold in one's living environment?
Well, mold is not something people take lightly. Now, I'm not talking about the mold that might be in the tiles in your bathroom. That can be cleaned up very easily. But I don't know how much people know about my history with mold. I was living in a house and I was away for a weekend. I was living at the bottom of a hill, and all of the washout from the houses up in the street overloaded the sewer right in front of my house. So the sewer got clogged in front of my house. So the pressure blew the commode downstairs where my office is off the floor, and it filled up my basement with about 2 foot of raw sewage. So when I come home, it was a disaster. We were away for the weekend. So I had a guy come in and clean it up. Well, he wasn't a mold remediation specialist, so he cleaned it up, but it got under the carpet. Some seeped through the sheetrock into the walls. So after about a year or so, I started to get sick, and I never was sick. I never even had a cold. My wife could tell you what happened. Good thing nobody in the family was coming downstairs, and I got sick, and it almost killed me. I ended up into the hospital. I mean, if you look closely, you'll see the mold. Look here, Paul. It ate a hole
Wow.
right through my forehead. I got an infection in my sinus cavity.
Wow.
So the first and foremost thing is have a mold remediation specialist come into your house. And he comes in with an instrument and he compares the amount of spores inside your house to outside. If the spores inside your house are much higher than the outside, you got a problem. Like in my house, when the specialists come in, he says, you got to get out of here. This can kill you. I said, when do I have to get out? He said, no, right now. This is a very serious situation. And it came back the second time. And I got double pneumonia in both lungs from it. This is serious. And doctors will tell you that mold will not kill you. That's true. But the secondary diseases, pneumonia, infections in your sinus cavity, even cancer. So the answer to that is get out of that house, get out of that apartment, have a mold remediation specialist come in and have them clean it up. The people that come into my house come in with hazmat suits. You don't walk around the base spraying Clorox on. That's the problem with the information that's in social media. They give you simple remedies that are not always the solution. They might work when you're spraying that stuff on the mold in your bathroom, but mold is a serious problem. Then, if you eat a clean diet and don't overeat on the fruit temporarily, you can have some, and then get out of the environment, and your body has that God-given remedial capabilities that will stabilize the mold. Go for some colonics, drink that Noni juice from Hawaii, from that guy in Hawaii, a farm. It helps dramatically when you have mold infection. It's very helpful, I'll put it that way.
Okay, regardless of if somebody has mold in their house or not, what's your recommendation? Do you think people should have air filters in their house, or do you think that depends on people's situation?
Well, you can never go wrong by having an air filter in your house, because we know one of the big problems, no matter where you live, unless you're living out in some remote area, that the fallout, the air is polluted. If you get up, even me, I'm looking right down on the golf course. I live in a beautiful place in New Jersey. I get out of the house in the morning, I go down to my car, there's a layer of dust on the car. That's the fallout. So you can't go wrong by having an air filter in your house or an air purifier. It's nothing, you might, if you got the money, invest in it. Yeah, it could help you, especially if especially with elderly people that are struggling. What I feel bad today is what's happening with the elderly. I live in a 55 and older community, and people struggle with their health. And they think if you talk to them, a lot of people are being told the truth about lifestyle change. And I'm not talking about nutrition, I'm talking about lifestyle change. Some of the things that you can accomplish are so dramatic, the average person that's uninformed, or even some of the people that are informed by going to Dr. Google, think it's quackery. What you can accomplish with lifestyle change done correctly, understanding that A lot of our conditions are not caused by a nutritional deficiency. They're caused by overeating and all the things that lead to toxemia, to overwhelm the body, overwhelm the organs, overweight your immune system. We become vulnerable to, viral and bacterial infections. We shouldn't have trouble with all these. I don't want to talk too much about this because it could end up being a problem. But if you're eating the right diet, the right amount, and you're eating clean, you're not vulnerable to bacterial and viral infections. You're not. Maybe someday we could do something special. But when I tried to enlighten people about that a couple of years ago, they shut me down. They took me down off Instagram.
Okay. So another question is, does Fred recommend using D3 and B12?
Yes, right, exactly. Juicing, yes. Juicing, me, myself, I don't juice as much as I used to, but I do juice. I went to a fabulous place in
No, they didn't say using. It didn't say juicing. Do you recommend vitamin D3 and B12 for people? They
Yes,
would, they
I do.
didn't say juicing.
I do. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood.
So you do recommend B12 and D3.
Methylcobalamin. There's three types of vitamin B12: cyanocobalamin, hydrolocobalamin, and methylcobalamin. Methylcobalamin is the type of vitamin B12 that's usable by everybody. And it's the most expensive, but it's the best for you. Vitamin D3 with K2, yes, I recommend it.
Okay. Uh, and that's not just for people on a raw vegan diet. You recommend it for
But
everyone?
across the board. And I recommend, of course, get out in the sun. If you take a good look at me, I got a tan. I'm out in the sun all the time. I don't go out and sunbathe. I go out, I exercise out in the back. I exercise barefooted right on the back of the golf course. I do my Qigong out in the fresh air. I go out on a balcony here, and I'm a big fan of breath work. Certain things that are becoming a rage now. I I think they got to be approached with caution. I think certain things are being hyped and being overdone and leading to problems.
All right. And another question is, does Fred think a fruit-based diet is the most healing?
Not necessarily. It all depends upon the person. I think now what's happening for people that are Christians, we know, according to Scripture, food is very, very important. But I think you can be distracted. I'd like to, before we end this, I like to explain to people that are Christians how the Bible is so pinpoint, accurate, and direct about lifestyle and how to really be healthy. But if you don't have issues, like for example, when I was running marathons, I wasn't eating enough fruit. So as soon as I incorporated more fruit into my diet, I was able to run a fast marathon. But up until that point, my training was so extensive. By the time I got to the race, I struggled to finish the marathon. I just wasn't getting enough fuel in my tank. But I don't see any reason. I'm not the type of person that's going to focus on the majority of food coming from money, food in your diet come from money. One thing I think a person, if they're exercising, they want to eat plenty of fruit. You ingest it a half hour to 45 minutes after you exercise because you're not secreting insulin. So you restore your glycogen stores and you'll pump yourself up with energy. But I don't recommend a person live on a fruitarian diet. That's not my recommendation.
Okay. The next question is a water fast good for cancer?
Well, I think water fasting is dramatic. I think it's good for everything. But I don't want to make any kind of an outlandish statement because there are people who have no idea how dramatically well some of these things could work. So I recommend people do their own research, and I don't tell people to disregard doctors. I have plenty of people come to me being treated by doctors, and I'm still able to help them. There's certain things that they would do I would not recommend, but I'm not a medical doctor. But water fasting is true water fasting is the absence of any supplements, just drinking water. You have to rest, you have to shut down. I also recommend people close their eyes and rest as much as they can, because when you're on a fast, that's how I did. I did some very, very long fast and was able to cut down my loss of weight. I lost less weight because I was a thin person at that point from doing so much fasting. I found out by closing my eyes, I conserved about 40% of my energy. Instead of losing a pound a day, as my body weight went down lower, I found out, and I closed my eyes, I only lost a half a pound or even less. So, and I learned from my own experience that these long heroic fasts are not necessary. And there is a slight risk, with these tremendously long fasts. Years ago, there was people fasting people for, way more than 40 days, which to me it's not necessary. I've seen, too many people have gotten in trouble. Fasting, there's nothing to be afraid of. When you're supervised by an experienced practitioner, somebody that supervised water fasting, like the people up at True North or Frank Sabatino, you're in good hands. They know exactly what to do. They can help you dramatically with just about anything.
Wonderful, wonderful. And definitely people need to do the research and be careful because there are people out there that
Yeah.
might appear to have the experience, but we don't know their track record. And uh, not only go to somebody who has experience, but like Dr. Bisci just recommended, or at least knows, True North, they have a great record, and Frank Sabatino has a great record. So definitely do the research if anyone is going to do a long fast, right?
Yep.
Okay. Uh, Somebody's asking, what's your opinion about sea vegetables such as dulse and wakame? They're from Italy, by the way. They say greetings from Italy.
Oh, I just got back from Italy. Oh, buongiorno. Yeah, I loved Italy. I was in northern Italy. I went to see Andrea Bocelli. He was just fabulous. I love Italy. Yeah, the sea vegetables are very, very important because not only is it loaded with minerals, but a lot of people have thyroid problems because they're not getting enough iodine, and that's part of the problem with people on a raw food diet. They don't eat enough sea vegetables. Now there are trace amounts of iodine in other foods that you would get, but you know, like Irish sea moss is a great source of iodine, and you know, it's got, I would say almost it's got, I think, 110 different nutrients in it. It's a tremendous thing. I use Irish sea moss too, but using sea vegetables or making wraps with nori, nori sheets, yeah, I think sea vegetables are a very important part of a healthy diet, especially for a vegan or somebody on a raw food diet.
Wonderful. The next question is, does he ever recommend probiotics or enzymes?
Yes, I do. Yes, a lot of people try to convince people that if you're taking digestive enzymes, your body becomes dependent on them and you will not produce your own enzymes. That's not true. Not to my experience. I've probably seen 30,000 people, and I've seen plenty of people take enzymes, and that didn't happen. Now, your body does produce enzymes on its own. Your pancreas produces different types of enzymes. So when you put food in your mouth and you start to chew it, your digestion actually begins in your mouth. You're secreting salivary amylase, which is an enzyme. So if you masticate that food correctly up into a liquid and then you swallow it, then it goes through the digestive process. Then when it's passed into the small intestines, it's all ready to be absorbed. But a lot of people don't chew well enough, me included. I'm always thinking about something, always in a hurry, and so I'm working on that myself to chew much more and to chew everything up into a liquid and take my time. And that's a big factor in not overeating. I don't overeat. I'm very disciplined about not eating a lot, and I think that's a real key to living a long life. And I actually learned that from, as I told you, about watching my mother and her friend. My mother and her friend ate very small amounts of food, and I was just a kid back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and I thought they didn't eat enough because I came from a big family, I had big brothers that ate quite a bit, and our diet was very good. My mother gave us a diet that was probably 50% raw when we were young, But I used to think they weren't getting enough to eat. And I told them, I said, her girlfriend, Valeria Barbera, she used to eat a couple cups of food 3 times a day. I said, Mama, is Valeria eating enough? She said, yeah, don't worry about her. Well, Valeria died at 105. My mother died at 101. So I learned a lot from some of these people that ate a clean diet years ago. And because a lot of people in these cultures lived a long, long time if they didn't die at a young age from infectious disease.
Okay. And then they also said, besides the enzyme probiotics, you recommend that?
Yeah, probiotics. You're having a problem with your intestinal flora. I mean, you could eat fermented foods. It's people tell you the fermented foods are partially rotten. I don't believe that. I eat fermented foods or cultured foods. Uh, I don't try to create these as some magical foods that you could, that you can't do without, but they are important. I would incorporate them into the diet. I just found a cultured yogurt at Whole Foods called let's see, what was it? Cocoa yolk. It's delicious. It's cultured. It's very, very good. So yeah, I recommend. And in cases if it should be prescribed by a person, or help you to make that decision, because I'd rather see people correct the source of the problem than rather to treat the symptom of the problem with digestive enzymes and probiotics. I like to go to the source. I like to heal the person, educate that person how to live, uh, a disease-free, long life. The information is available today. The whole problem is the confusion out there that's on all these different channels where everybody has a different opinion. And the bottom line is, how many of these people have healed people from serious diseases that are deemed to be incurable?
Sure. Somebody's asking, what's your opinion about the Gerson therapy?
Yeah, there was a lot of people that healed from the Gerson therapy. 13 glasses of juice a day. They ran into some confusion. They thought they had to, I think, take some liver extracts and things like that. They were missing out on something. But the Max Gerson program helped a lot of people that got better. But there's nothing complicated about that. It's another approach that people. I don't think you have to drink 13 glasses of juice a day, though. I don't. Doesn't. That's compensating for something that was done wrong. The whole problem with a lot of these therapies, what do you do when you go back to your normal lifestyle? There's a lot of therapies out there that are perform dramatically well. There's a lot of places you can go. The diet is fabulous. They help people dramatically, but they're not the type of lifestyle that people uh, seem able to adhere to when they go home. What I want to do before my time comes is I want to enable people to realize that this is not complicated. This is simple. And there's a way to meet people where they're at. Everybody. You don't have to go on an all raw diet. You don't have to eat anything radical to the left or right. You don't have to eat a fruitarian diet, or especially eat a carnivore diet. That's although it does, these diets do help in the beginning. The diet, do you want to get into a type of a diet where that you could stick to emotionally, psychologically, with a variety of different foods, make it appetizing, where you're getting some enjoyment out of it. That's the key. You want to be able to help people. I want to be able to help people that need help, that comes with having the right kind of knowledge to meet them where they're at, help help them work out their problems. Anybody could tell you to go on an all raw diet. There's nothing to that. There's no, can you explain the science, what's going on behind it? And there's a lot of, I was told years ago you couldn't live on a raw diet for a long time. I was also told you couldn't run marathons on a raw diet. And that was many, many years ago. I did. I ran many marathons and longer too. I'm not saying that to boast. I'm just saying there's a lot of abstract science out there. When somebody says, in fact, there was a double-blind study in the New York Post yesterday. It was utterly ridiculous. I don't know how anybody could probably believe a study like that. It was preposterous. A lot of double-blind studies, they come to conclusions because they were funded by certain people, and there's so many variables that can't be accounted for, and the studies really don't mean anything. I don't. I mean, I don't. I certainly believe in science, but I don't think uh, double-blind studies are over indicative of what science has to say about the situation.
Sure. Okay. I know you just came back from Italy, and I know you travel every year, and you've traveled with me even around the world. Somebody's asking for some tips on traveling and staying healthy.
Well, that's pretty tricky. It takes a lot of discipline because I love to travel. I mean, remember we walked a lot through Europe and we went to different places. I don't know if you remember, we slept on the banks of the River Seine, right?
Yeah, we went
Yeah,
everywhere.
it's
Yeah.
amazing, And so, I mean, travel is a wonderful part of life, exposed to different cultures and to see how different people in the world live. And someday I'd like to elaborate why there's much poorer countries in the world where seem to live on a deprived diet and they actually live longer than we do. There's got to be a reason for that. And someday I'd like to elaborate on that. But yeah, I mean, believe it or not, when I went to Italy, which was shocking to me because I couldn't get a good salad. I mean, I had to settle for salad. It was just romaine lettuce a couple of times. And then I had to go I would go speak to the chef and, without sounding like a crazy man, I would tell him what I wanted. And the people were very gracious there. They would comply with me. I went to one place and, I could speak Italian, but obviously the guy, the waiter didn't really understand me. So I asked if I could speak to the chef, and the chef was a woman, and she was a lovely person. She come out, I know what to do for you, and she made me the most gorgeous salad. I'm telling you, it was, because the salad for me has to be a meal in itself. You know what I'm saying? So you
Sure.
just have to be careful. Don't be afraid to speak up. I would not go to a country where you can't get something good to eat. I would not change my diet to accommodate another country. You know what I mean? But I've been all over the world. I've been to Japan. I've been to China. I've been all over the place. And I was always able to get somebody to feed me without changing my diet. I went to, I was in Hong Kong, China in, I guess it was about 1952, 1953. And I took the Calhoun Ferry and went to China. I got off the boat. I spent about an hour in China, and I won't go into what happened. It didn't take me long enough. I was with a friend of mine named Gus, who was a martial artist. It didn't take me long, me and him long to get back on the ferry and go back into to Hong Kong, China. Hong Kong was a British colony at the time too. It was it was eye opening to see what was going on in a place like that.
Oh, wow. All right, another question somebody asked. They say, I'm trying to help my husband gain healthy weight and strength. A year ago, he had colon surgery. What do you recommend to gain healthy weight and strength?
Well, that's you got to be patient because when he had colon surgery and they move a section of your colon, remember the food passes through you much quicker. So that when the food drops out of your colon, right? Because you have a shorter colon, I'm assuming that's what happened. He had a colon resection. The food drops down from that 18, 20 feet of small intestines. It drops down quicker and the food is absorbed, the nutrients absorbed in your small intestines. So it depends upon uh, what he weighs, how tall, and how heavy he is. Say if he's 5'8" and he's 130, 135 pounds, I wouldn't force him to gain weight. The average person's concept of what's a healthy body weight is not is erroneous. They're looking at it from a cosmetic standpoint. Like me, I'm 5 foot 10 and a half. I was 5'11". I had that broken back. I had to get surgery, so I'm probably 5 foot 10. I weigh under 140 pounds now. I wouldn't try to gain weight because that's the key to longevity. A lot of people that would be this body weight, somebody would say, "Oh, you're too skinny," or some bodybuilder would say, "Well, put on some muscle." They don't realize what they're doing to the person if you're on a healthy diet. And if you're on a raw food diet or a vegan diet, you got to go be careful what you go back to. So if you could find out what the person weighs, could you ask them how tall and how heavy her husband is?
Yeah, to the person that asked the question, uh, and Louise, yeah, what's the height and weight of your husband? Okay, we'll find out.
Okay.
Should
Yeah,
we
you
go to the
got to be
next?
careful about that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Are you ready for the next question, or
Yeah, I'm ready.
okay, okay. Uh, what is your opinion of Noni juice? You know Noni, the fruit.
Noni juice, yes. Noni juice from the noni juice that hasn't been pasteurized. It was a big factor to me when I was affected by the mold. There was a guy wrote a book on mold poisoning, a doctor. I forget the name of the book, but he had recommended noni juice, and I tried it, and I did feel a lot better. Yes, I recommend noni juice.
All right. Next question is, how do we test for mold in the home?
You need a mold remediation specialist to come in and test you with an instrument. They compare the amount of spores in the air to the amount of spores outside. If you got a lot of trees outside, there are going to be spores out there. But you should have less. If you got a lot of spores in your house, and those spores go in your mouth and your nose, they get into your sinus, they get into your lungs, they cause serious inflammation. And what happened to me got into my sinus, and my head, my forehead started to stick out. And, I had pressure in there, and it actually, the doctor had punched a hole in my forehead, and all this gunk come out of it. And they wanted to do surgery on me. They were going to remove my forehead. Good thing I didn't do it, because I went on I watched my diet, did a short fast, and I got better. It was a serious situation for me. And mold is something that you do not ignore. Serious mold in a house. I'm not talking about, on your bedroom tiles. That could be cleaned up very easy. I'm telling you, mold, because they wanted me to rip my house down. You remember the house I had? I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
house down. But I definitely had to move out for a week while those guys went into the house with hazmat suits.
Wow. So another question is, if somebody doesn't have a place to do a colonic, is an enema at home okay?
Yep. Yeah, you could do it. Read up on how to give yourself an enema. Don't force the water into you. You know what I mean? Get into the right position. Get an enema bag. Do some research on how to do an enema. That's
Okay.
okay.
Is oregano oil good for us?
Yeah, it's antiviral, antibacterial, but if somebody's sick all the time and have colds and flus, they got to take a look. They're creating the wrong internal environment to support bacteria or viral proliferation. They got to take a good look. The host is a factor. There's traditional people say they can't try to ignore that. They can ignore it all they want.
Okay. Next question is, why do many doctors say viruses such as HPV and other viruses are not curable, but natural healers say it's easy to heal with diet and lifestyle changes? What do you think?
I think in order for a virus or bacteria to proliferate, they have to have they proliferate over the endogenous waste that's in your system. Don't forget, your body heals best on an empty stomach. That's why bodies heal faster on an empty stomach, especially with a supervised fast, than they do. A lot of people say, "Oh, you need more protein, you need more of this, more of that." That's actually might not be the best thing for you at all. So, but probiotics can be help people. Fermented foods could be helping people. Cultured foods could be helping people in those type of situations. But the condition of your gut, your immune system is in your gut. If your immune system is going to operate at peak efficiency, you cannot be supporting by overeating, excesses, eating processed food that create the endogenous waste that bacteria and viruses love. That's what they proliferate on. That's why some people have colds all the time. They're always sick. It's because, they don't understand that they're creating an internal environment for the bacteria and the infections to proliferate.
I think the question was things like the HPV virus. Doctors say it's going to be in your system forever. And I understand by eating a healthy diet, it might help the symptoms not come out. But I guess the question is, uh, can these viruses be gone from the body, or do they sit in the body forever?
No, well, you're being told that it will sit in the body forever, that it keeps coming back, that the sores keep coming back. You also got to eliminate the source of contact. A lot of people are involved in relationships with people that have it, and through the intimate contact, it won't ever go away. But I've known plenty of people, I think you do too, where people had things like that, and by doing the right thing, it no longer became symptomatic. It never bothered them again. Whether it was completely gone or was dormant, I'm not going to get into that. But they never had problems again.
I guess the answer is if it's not bothering you, what does it matter if it's gone or not, right?
Yeah, but
You
it
know,
it's gone. Believe me.
sure.
Uh,
Which is another topic I'll discuss with you another time. It's about cure versus remission. You know, and that's a great topic that often comes up. Does it make a difference if you're cured or in remission as long as you're not having the symptoms? So,
well, it does make a difference. If you're in remission, depends upon how you got there. If you're in remission from, you know, about what we're discussing here, and you don't go back to what caused the problem, I don't want to use the word cure, but you're in true remission. A lot of people go into remission from, which basically we're talking about cancer. They go into remission, but because they didn't try to dig deep and find out why they had that sickness and what happened to them, and when they did, they found out and they followed the steps it took in their lifestyle to put them in remission. If they go back, uh, kind of simple to think you're going to have the same problem. But if you go into remission when you're treating the symptom and not trying to help the person with the cause, you have a chance where it's going to come back.
well, let's say myself for colitis, I had 30 years ago, and now that I'm eating healthy, I have no worries or issues with colitis. But if I go back to the lifestyle I was living back then, I can get colitis again. So does that mean I still have colitis that's still in remission, or am I truly cured? Is it the diet that's managing it, or do I not have it? Because why would it come back if I started eating
Oh, you're cured if you keep doing what you're doing. So that word cure is tricky. That word cure is kind of like a trap to make you look foolish. You know what I mean? If you're going to live another 50 years and you never bothers you again, you could look back and you say that you were cured. You know what I mean? So it doesn't. It's just a play on words there. It doesn't make any difference. If it never bothers you again and you're living in optimal health, it's a play on words. I don't get caught in that garbage.
would it be more correct wording to say I manage my so-called condition through living a healthy lifestyle, and as long as I live a healthful lifestyle, I have no issues with any disease?
Well, I don't like the word manage, to be honest, because it sounds like it's just lurking under the surface that you make a little mistake. You stub your toe some way, it's
Sure.
going to come back. I mean, you're, as far as I'm concerned, a guy like you, if you continue to do a lot of so-called cures, are also psychological. They're in your mind. Once you realize how this really works, and there's a mass amount of confusion out there. We've been indoctrinated into an abstract science that got people totally bewildered. That's why when you see some of these people that are talking all this talking in science, a lot of the stuff they're saying is just not true in the real world and how the body actually works.
Sure. All right. Thank you for that. Somebody has this question is, do you have any advice for sleeping problems? And Dr. Bish and I were just talking about this earlier. So do you have any advice for sleeping problems?
Yep, yep. Okay, I'm one of those people that's not a good sleeper, right? So there was periods of my life if I slept 4 hours of deep sleep, I was lucky. And sleep is to me, lifestyle, exercise, and sleep are very, very important to be a healthy person. I think sleep is the most important of those three things. So what I there's a number of things you could do to induce deep sleep. One of them is something called box breathing. I think we discussed this before, right?
Yeah.
Box breathing is very, very effective. What I do is I take lavender, I got a little thing of lavender oil next to my bed, and I go to bed most of the times I'm pretty wide awake. So I take the lavender oil, I smell it, whiff it a little bit, a few times, like smelling salt. Then I lay in bed, get comfortable, make sure all the lights are out in your room. Don't watch television if you have sleep problems. Don't watch television for at least an hour before you go to bed. Don't go on this screen. This thing will shock your brain wide awake, even if you're exhausted. The phone, and then you do the box breathing. The box breathing, there's different variations, but basically it's very simple. What you do is you relax and you inhale to the count of 4 or 5. So that you inhale and you go 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, or 1005. You're inhaling, then you stop, you hold your breath at 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Then you inhale 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Then hold your breath again, 1001, 1003, and then you exhale 1001, 1002. So you just do that, inhale, exhalation for a count of 4. Then you stop in between each stage for a count of 4. You do that 3 or 4 rounds, your chances of falling asleep about 90%.
Okay.
Warm baths and Epsom salt, just relaxing, try to get all the stress out of your mind, prayer. I'm a big fan. You know how I am. I'm a big fan of prayer.
Absolutely. And I'm talking a lot about this topic on my videos lately, so please check them out as well. Definitely, this is one of the reasons why I created the daylight diet, not eating late at night or before going to sleep, and so on. So, that person from earlier, Dr. Bisci, is that they said that her husband weighs 5'11", is 155 pounds.
That if he's on a good diet, there's nothing wrong with that. If he's on a bad diet, then his body weight is too low. If he's 155 pounds, plus if he, depending upon what he's eating, if he increases the caloric content, don't increase the protein. If he's getting 10-15% of his diet in protein, he needs more calories. If he increases the protein and doesn't increase the caloric content, he might be burning body fat. A high protein diet without the carbs, the protein and fat is not a good dietary source of energy. So you eat a high protein diet and fat, and you're not eating carbs, you're going to burn body fat. It's definitely probably the fastest way to lose weight, but it's not the healthiest way to do it over a period of lifetime. Everything I'm talking about is not for 5 years. I'm talking about a period of lifetime. I'm trying to get people to realize that we can live a very long, high quality life, have all your mental faculties, be able to dance, walk, do all kinds of things. When I was in Italy, I was walking through this town, fabulous little town. I forget the name of it. And there was a guy out there playing this music, and he was dancing like unbelievable. And I watched him, and this guy could really dance. And he never stopped because there was new people. He had a bucket out. People were throwing money in the bucket. And then we walked around for hours. Come back, the guy was still dancing. So the guy called me out. He said, come on, come over here. He told me in Italian, come on. So my wife, who was a troublemaker, pushed me out there, and I was dancing with the guy. And I was really going at it. And my wife yelled out that I was 95 years old. And the guy, it shows you what you can. I'm not saying that to boast, but I'm just trying to encourage people. And I didn't see no fat people. I didn't see one person that was overweight when I was in Italy. Zero. Something's going on in this world.
Yeah,
How can
absolutely.
people in certain impoverished countries in the world that are really struggling, not getting enough to eat, how can they be healthier than we are? What's the reason for that? What you leave out is really the key. You know what I mean? And the way they're trying to indoctrinate people into this country, that we become cash cows, whether it's medicinal medicine, when they're treating symptoms. I'm not against medicine. Sometimes people need it. I'm not against surgery. I had a broken back. I had to get the surgery. But instead, the supplement business is getting to be another. There's all these superfoods, all these magical supplements, they're going to do all these things. I don't. I think a lot of it is just they're trying to get into your pocketbook.
Sure. All right, a couple more questions here. The next one is, what is the most healthy fermented food you can make at home instead of buying olives, sauerkraut, and kimchi?
Well, which is the healthiest out of those foods?
No, it says, what are some healthy fermented foods you can make at home instead of buying olives, sauerkraut, or kimchi?
Well, I'm not an expert on fermented foods. I know you can make cultured foods if you take like that yoga, that stuff I buy. I mean, you
Yeah,
told me how to make it at home.
coconut yogurt you can make, but I make sauerkraut and kimchi in my house, and it's
It's
definitely a
easy,
better
right?
version than the store. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
make it.
complicated.
I buy it, so I'm not an. I don't. I wouldn't consider
No,
my.
it's not complicated or time consuming to learn how to make it at home. It's a healthier version than what you find in the store.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, what's a good way to give up caffeine?
I mean, to give up, you got to realize that caffeine is a neurotoxin. It's not good. It's actually a factor in Alzheimer's. Although people think it's um, the opposite, because when you drink, the caffeine stimulates your mind, gives you mental clarity temporarily, and it it stimulates your energy. Unless you're eating a whole bean and something like this. A guy I know in California makes a product that actually gives you mental clarity and actually helps with Alzheimer's. But um, the best way to do it is if you're drinking whatever you're drinking. Say you're drinking 3 cups of coffee a day. Cut back, keep reducing it. Cut back to 2 cups for about where you're on doing 2 cups for 4 days. Then cut back to 1 cup for 4 days. Then cut it in half. Or you could use hypnosis or auto suggestion. It's very auto suggestion. You repeat uh, suggestions just before you fall asleep, like every day in every way. I'm getting better and better and better. I'm getting stronger and stronger. Those things help. Or hypnosis. There's a guy I know named Don Manarino could help you. He sends you a hypnosis tape and you play it over your phone before you sleep. It helps you with all kinds of addictions.
Okay, somebody's asking how many calories you eat every day.
I don't count calories. I don't waste my time with that stuff.
Okay, someone was asking how often you eat. How many times a day do you eat?
Twice.
Twice a day. Okay. Another question is a solution for skin problems?
Detox.
Detoxing. Okay. Uh,
Fasting, juice dieting, or detox, colonics, all that type of stuff.
okay, we'll take three more questions, everybody, before we finish. Somebody's asking about water. What do you think of alkaline ionized water, and what types of water do you drink, and how many ounces of water do you drink per day?
The water I use is an alkaline water machine that produces hydrogen. It's to me, I think it's excellent. I drink a large glass when I first get up in the morning, and because of the hydrogen in the water, because of the alkalinity of the water, it gets into the cell, and the hydrogen gets into the cell, and the hydrogen is converted to oxygen in the cell, and you feel it. You kind of feel. I mean, I don't drink coffee, so I don't even know what that feels like, but it feels like I drank something that was stimulating, but it's not stimulating because my pulse rate doesn't go up. I use the cocoa pulse test; it doesn't go up. So, what was the rest of that question?
They wanted to know what type of water do you drink? Would you answer how many ounces of water do you drink per day?
I make sure, like right now, I have a 16-ounce glass of water right here. So whenever I'm doing anything, whenever I'm with company, I always put a glass, or watching television, or what I'm doing, I always have a glass of water. And your body absorbs about 4 ounces of water at a time. If you drink 20 ounces of water in the morning and think that's going to last you all day, not the case, because your body only absorbs a certain amount and you're going to urinate the rest out. So I would space it out. A rough rule of thumb would be half your body weight in ounces, a rough rule of thumb. Then you got to factor in whether you're on a raw diet, how much juice you're drinking. As I said before, if you weigh 120 pounds, that would be 60 ounces. But if you're drinking two 16-ounce juices, rough, you could drink 35, 40 ounces of water, space it out throughout the whole day, and drink the juice. Water is very important. I would not let anybody convince you because you want a vegan or raw diet, you don't have to drink water. To me, that's a mistake.
All right. Juan says he's 40 years old and 220 pounds and 5'11". He said, any recommendations?
Well, he's got to realize that, that he has a weight issue to deal with. Most people don't realize the hardest thing about changing your diet is not physical, it's psychological. The whole problem out there in our society today, why we are the sickest industrialized country in the world, is that people have a psychological addiction to food, and they're addicted to food just like a drug. And it's just like you have to go through that same process to, deal with the food addiction, just like you're dealing with a drug addiction. But the good thing about it, if you do a 4-day water fast, a supervised water fast, you're probably resetting it, and then you could go on to a better diet.
Okay. Somebody says, what are your thoughts on avocado, flax, and chia seeds? Does he think these should be limited for optimal health?
No, I don't think you should sit. I don't think it'd be wise to sit down and eat 5 avocados or anything like that. But flax, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. I use them on a pretty regular basis. I eat half an avocado to one avocado every day. But my diet is very simple. I don't have any recipes. I eat the food just the way it came. So I don't know how many people want to do something like that. But no, you don't have to worry about monosaturated fats. There's nothing, of course, chia seeds, you have a better chance of absorbing by soak them or grinding them up. Same thing with flax seeds. Hemp seeds, no, you could sprinkle them on your salads and things like that. I think they're very important. I don't worry about omega-3s. I mean, there's nothing wrong with my mind. I'll be 96. I don't go to all that trouble that some people recommend for omega-3s.
Okay. Couple more questions here. We're going to finish.
All right.
Somebody says, do you like using a food dehydrator to prepare your meals?
I never owned a dehydrator.
Okay. And somebody says, what about blood cancer? That's their question.
Like leukemia and different types of cancer like that?
They didn't get into it. They just said, what about blood cancer? So they didn't really ask a question, but I guess I would assume what you're saying.
Well, I mean, you want to, I'm not against, there's there's doctors out there that, there's guys like Tom Lodi, who's, who knows how to treat cancer. He knows all the aspects of it. But under all circumstances, if you have any kind of cancer, I would not let anybody convince me that lifestyle has nothing to do with their recovery. So I'm not, going to say it's a cure of any type, but I have no doubt that changing your lifestyle to the right type of diet, if somebody has cancer, it's gonna help them to one degree or another. I've seen some of the most miraculous things happen this way myself with my own experience, with people. So, change your lifestyle and make sure you got a doctor that you could work with, and he could work with you and accept the fact that you want to incorporate a lifestyle. And then there are some supplements out there like Balasta and systemic enzymes like Vita Defense that I have found had a dramatic impact. But that's all part of a comprehensive program. You know what I'm saying? You want to incorporate it into a comprehensive program. Balaster is effective. You know what I mean? There's no two ways about it. And I'm not saying everybody's going to get better, but it gives you a much better chance with all these things.
Absolutely. Uh, so somebody's asking, what was the name of the water machine that you use?
Stealth,
Stealth.
stealth water machine.
Okay. And last two questions I'm gonna ask. Okay. The first question is, for someone who feels hopeless about their health right now, what would you say to spark their belief in healing?
If they feel hopeless about their health,
Yes.
well, I'm a Christian, and I've seen some of the most miraculous things take place. I know a lot of people just don't believe in it, and I'm not a religious guy. I'm not into religion. I am into having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And I've seen so many, that was the grounding part of many miracles, including my own. When I was young, I was a dyslexic. As I've shared numerous times, I got kicked out of every school I went to. And after I changed my lifestyle, I also was a competitive athlete. I was high competing as an Olympic type weightlifter at a very high level. I ran ultra distance in that after I changed my diet. But the most important thing that happened to me when I developed absolute faith in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, everything changed for me. My whole attitude, my bitterness, my anger, my hostility towards people, because I used to get in a lot of trouble, and and I had such poor self-esteem because when you're dyslexic, I my mind was racing all the time, and it was very hard for me to stay focused. Even today, if I'm watching television, I have to stay focused. I think that was part of it, but it actually worked as an asset because after I became totally devoted to what Christ did on that cross, it made me want more to help people. It wasn't just about money. And as I studied the scripture, I realized the best book on nutrition is to understand the Bible in Genesis 1:29 to Genesis 9:3, a period about 1,200 years. According to the scripture, people were living hundreds of years. From Genesis 9:3 to the time of Ruth, which was about, I think, someplace between 13 and 1,500 years, lifespan went down to 110 years. So that's in the Bible. Then there's 72 places in the Bible where it tells you to fast and pray. So fasting, there's nothing new about fasting. I think a lot of people are fasting. They should be praying. You get better results if you pray too.
Sure. Thank you. And last question. If you could leave just one teaching for humanity, one truth to guide future generations, what would it be?
That's a very profound. I don't want to say that's a very good question because everybody uses that terminology. It's very profound, requires a profound answer, as far as I'm concerned. Um, I mean, I don't want to insult anybody of a different faith, but it's to get grounded in find out who Christ is, and you know, give you so you can get dominion over your appetite and change your lifestyle.
Wonderful. Everybody, Dr. Bisci has a book called Your Healthy Journey. You can find it on Amazon. I'll put the link below. And in closing, Dr. Bisci, is there anything you want to say?
No, I just want people to realize that to become a healthy person, it's more psychological than physical. Once you leave out something long enough, you lose the cravings. A lot of people they don't really, if you go to a 4 day water fast, any fasting you do beyond 3 days really should, to cover every aspect, you should be supervised by somebody. It could be supervised over the phone, but it's not that hard to get dominion over your appetite. You can become really have a real, and you need somebody to explain to you what goes on. A lot of people, portion control does work, A lot of people always struggling with their appetite. They cut back on their portions, but they always could slip up if they get into an under emotional stresses. They bust out and overeat. So, get educated, do some research, talk to the right people. Don't buy, don't buy into some of the nonsense that's taking place in social media. Don't spend a lot of money on something that's going to give you a miraculous answer or some miraculous superfood. You can get everything you need by eating a plant-based diet, a variety of different foods, or incorporating a minimal amount of animal protein, maybe 15%. But you don't, the more, if you look at the world epidemiologically, the more, even in pristine environments where everything's clean, people are grounded, no stress, no cell phones, with every increase of animal protein, they're living shorter lives. We're not carnivores. We're not big cats, lions, or tigers. We don't have the physiology. You can eat some, and we're not. Every animal is instinctual. They have an instinctual specific diet. We do too. We're cerebral animals, so we could go astray. We're able to apply reasoning and logic more so than we should. So we find, we try eating something and it's very pleasurable. It don't become long for us, become addicted. That works through the hypothalamus gland, the flow of your brain. And so they're stuck with that. So you can reverse that. But a lot of people, they don't try to reverse it. They treat the symptom. And if you're eating following a type of diet that's actually treating the symptom, it's not going to work in the long run. It hasn't been my experience.
Thank you, Dr. Bisci. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. And we'll see if we can get Dr. Bisci on again to answer more questions another time. But thank you all for being here. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and stay tuned for more guests and more interviews. Until then, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great day and a great raw life. All right, we're off, Fred. Thank you so
Okay.
much. That was wonderful. That was fun.